Maxime. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing. I have 10 questions today here with eBOSS. So we're going to start with our first question, which is you've been in the industry for 21 years, right? Since 1996?
I took a break, a 2 year break, so almost 19.
Right.
I mean,
So
I was in the business, but on the other side, I was agenting at that time for 2 years.
interesting. Yeah. So since you've been in the industry for so long, how does one becomes a casting director? How did it happen for you?
You don't study to become a casting director at all. There's no school, so you just learn by doing it. I was fortunate enough to start at Powerhouse Casting in Toronto. That's how I started in casting. And by simply cold calling all the casting directors in Toronto at that time, because I'm in Montreal now, and saying, "Do you need help? Are you looking for an assistant?" And I just so happened at that particular moment at Powerhouse they were looking for someone. I started the assistant to the assistant, and I worked my way up. That's how you do it.
You have an your opinion is that Montreal casting is way different from Toronto casting. It's faster, it's more up to date. People are just casting. They don't have a week to write a breakdown. It's way faster. So, do you think that Montreal is a little bit more like LA rather than any other Canadian
Okay.
city?
I Let me rephrase that. I think in the commercial world, because I mainly
Mm-hmm.
cast commercials. I cast a lot of productions like what we call the double shoot, where one cast, the English speaking cast, is hired from, let's say, Toronto, and then the French Canadian actors go and fly to Toronto and work with the same crew on the same concept. And those are usually led by Toronto, and the time frame that's given to us for casting is based on Toronto. And in
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, everything is way faster than it is in Montreal. There are many tools in Toronto that allow casting directors to work really fast. They can put out a breakdown and have a session organized for the next day. It's very difficult here because we don't have necessarily the same tools available to
Mm-hmm.
us. And I'll be frank, everything is a little slower in Montreal.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
everything is a little slower. So, but the Toronto clients and the, let's say the American clients are used to a very fast turnaround when they want you to organize a casting, and they don't necessarily understand why it's taking like a day, a little bit longer, like let's say an extra day in
Mm-hmm.
Montreal, and it's oftentimes it's just simply the agent's response to his breakdowns are slower,
Mm-hmm.
just because they don't have the tools that can speed it up.
Right.
I'll give you an example. There's a great tool called the Casting Workbook, which is one of the tools that I use to send my breakdown, and I can get submissions from most agents, English-speaking agents, on directly on the Casting Workbook, and it's very easy to organize an English-speaking casting with that particular tool in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the number of actors is smaller comparatively from the English speaking to the French speaking. There's a lot more French speaking actors here. There's a lot more agents. They don't use the casting workbook, so they submit by email, which takes longer because they have to write
Mm-hmm.
an email, they have to attach whatever attachment or link to their website. So all of this takes extra time. The casting workbook has tried to a foray in Quebec, and it's never caught on, unfortunately. Um,
That's so unfortunate that it takes
yeah.
so much extra time for it from your day.
But that's the reality that we have to do. So on the one end, I have clients that are expecting a really fast turnaround, and I always have to tell them that I need an extra day, and they don't necessarily understand. So we still
Mm-hmm.
have to work at full capacity, even with that extra day. I wish I had like a week to organize a casting, but it's never happens.
Right.
I think also
Unless
because
it's a short film
I think I'm
or a
I think
feature.
I'm known as a fast casting person, so I think that's why they don't give me necessarily that much time to organize it. But we always, as I say to my assistant or everyone, we always figure it out. There's always a way to get it going.
That's amazing. Well, the fact that we're recording this video online
Yep.
right now is amazing, and it shows how far the technological advances have taken us compared to when we would say VHS tapes and DVD
Yep.
discs and USB cards. This is just blows my mind every day. Do you think that in future all the casting directors, or at least majority, will switch to conducting interviews and auditions via Skype?
Listen, I speak to my colleagues here in Montreal, and they're flabbergasted every time I mention that I've cast two projects. I've cast a feature film and a TV shows, and only on Skype, and they just can't believe it. I will explain though that for whoever is listening to that interview, that we always did callbacks in person. It was only the first audition. So instead of doing a self-tape, they would have audition with me as the reader, and they would have immediate reaction. Let's try it another way. Okay, so I'm liking what you've done this first take. Let's go in that direction. Which I find is a lot more helpful for actors, because I find self-tapes are very limiting in that you have very small directions from whoever you get them, whether it's production or a casting person, and you have your own interpretation of the character. Oftentimes you get sides or a script, which also don't give you much info about the project. So you can have great instincts and try something, but it's totally not what they were wanting. So it's somewhat disappointing when we get a self-tape, and we feel the actor is very talented, but it's not showing us what we wanted to see. So then you have to ask again, can we get more precise directions? I find that with Skype, in that particular sense, it allowed me to give them instant input. And okay, so I like what you did, keep that, but let's try this way, or let's your character, and give them a little bit more feedback about the story, their characters, what just happened, the scene prior, and I would say that everyone was feeling very self-conscious at the very beginning of a Skype audition, especially if it was the first one. And then at the end, we're like mind blown, going, oh my God, this is so cool. And you get a one-on-one with an actor.
And it sounds like a dream for an actor, giving notes to yourself as you go. That's something you don't usually get. Yeah.
No extraneous people in the room. There's no technician. There's no agency people if you're auditioning for a commercial. I don't know that we could do that for commercials, though. I think that only for fiction, whether it's a features or TV, I think it's feasible. Like if you come into a room with only the casting director, and you don't even have the need for a reader. I mean, I would be the reader with them, which sometimes would, I'm not necessarily an actor, so sometimes it would just be a little bit, and sometimes the language, because I do have an accent sometimes, so it just comes out. And but all in all, it was a very successful run, so I highly recommend it.
Right. So since that's I think you're the first person who actually does that. I've never heard about it before. So what do you think our industry can do in order to grow in future?
Well, I think we have to adapt to technology, that's for sure. When I started at Powerhouse, we were using the beta tapes, like those huge tapes. Then we switched to VHS. Then we switched to DVDs. And then it was just as soon as Wi-Fi was available, we had clients come into wherever I was working and asking, if we didn't have Wi-Fi, why we didn't have it. And now it became, putting everything on a USB key or uploading something. And now it's so easy. You can record yourself on a cell phone. The quality of the image is really good. The sound is sufficient for first audition, where in the past, an actor, if an actor was doing a self-tape, they would have to go into a studio facility and pay, every time they would do a self-tape, they would have to pay good money and hire a friend or a professional reader to read with them. You can now do this at home. You can pre-record the reader's part if you want. All this just using technology, and it doesn't cost you a cent. You can edit your own thing. You can upload it to wherever. It doesn't cost a dime. So I think technology, for casting people, we do have to follow. We have to keep updated about what the new technologies are, and especially if your clients request it. Because as soon as I have someone that mentioned a technology that I don't know, we research on it.
Right.
We make sure that it's available to our clients. Like the very first Skype callbacks we would be doing, let's say we have a Toronto callback, and then we have the directors in Toronto, and at the end of the Toronto session we do our callback. The director is linked through Skype and can actually direct the actors who are in Montreal. The very first time, I remember having to go into video conferencing facilities that, like the big telecom companies had. We had to go, like physically, and go to those locations. Myself, our clients, and the actors. And there's no need for that. We can do that in the comfort of a studio, or we even had in the past an actor that was not available for a callback being stuck or on whether they're working or not available that day or shooting on another project. You can find a window of opportunity and do that. They can be on an actual other set and audition for another project through whether it's Skype, iChat, or whatever the technology is, which is amazing.
That sounds like a dream.
Because I remember the days where we would hold auditions, and then someone would get booked on something else and not be available for the callback, and then as often happens, if you're not available for a callback, usually that means that you're not going to be considered for the part, because they wanted to direct you, they wanted to see how you were reacting to directions, where you would take the character. It would be kind of a loss, not cause, I was going to say cause, but it would be like almost like you missed your chance because you're not available for the callback, which is no longer the case in most cases, I would say. There are not a lot of opportunities for us, because there's only one film festival here in Montreal, which has seen better days. Toronto is where a lot of the business happens, especially during the film festival in Toronto, and which would mean for me to stop everything I'm doing in Montreal and then just go to Toronto and take the time to go and shake hands, which I would love to do, but I don't necessarily have time. Those festival happens at key moments where we're quite busy in town. Yeah, whether it's a North American film festival, but there are some occasions here. We have Les Rendez-vous du Cinéma Québécois, which is now has changed name since last year, which was just a month ago. And I did go, and you do meet people and you shake hands, but it's new. We don't know. And let's be frank, business is a word of mouth business. They usually get a call from someone who spoke to someone you know, who's used you before, and you've been highly recommended from them. I've never had in my life other than to find that first job at Powerhouse, to do any kind of cold call. I did try at one point when business was slow to just call companies and ad agencies that weren't using me, and the reception was, what are you doing and why are you calling me? And so the reaction was very strange, and we're not used to that. You work with someone who enjoys working with you, so they do recommend you to other people. I do get calls. I mean, we did a job out of Barcelona, and they had called someone I had worked with in Toronto, and same thing with LA. I get not as many calls as we used to, because there's a lot less productions being shot out of LA now, especially for commercials. But we do get recos from people we've worked with, whether it's production companies or ad agencies, or just someone, a producer somewhere, worked with you in the past or heard about you. And the website helps. I have a great website, which
it's beautiful.
Yeah, which my assistant worked very, very, very hard at. We did get some clients from just the website. They can view our work, they like the work, and then from then on they contact us, which is amazing.
Well, staying in the same kind of question, how do you feel about actors approaching you in those festivals and maybe industry parties and trying to promote themselves? How do you feel about it?
I always welcome the opportunity to know new actors. If it's someone that I've known for years, that I've auditioned frequently, it's always nice to speak to someone and just say hi, and just it's a people person. Casting.
Just step outside of the room and be a real person.
Yeah, to be a real person and not a person behind a desk. I've had often people where I meet people in those circumstances, and they go, I think I know you, but they can't recall where. And then I just make the table gesture, and they go, oh, okay, I do have legs, So it's always fun. But it's great to meet people in person, but I think the work speaks always by itself, whether it's a demo, whether it's a play, whether it's an audition that they've done for me, or whether it's a production, a TV show, or movies that I've seen them in. The personality of someone in person comes through, but the talent doesn't necessarily. It's until we've seen them act that we can actually judge if they're right for a part or not.
Right. So what is your biggest pet peeve when it comes down to auditions?
Not coming prepared. I think if you had the chance, quote unquote, to get an audition, I think you should come prepared. There's nothing worse than having an actor who complain that they didn't have time to memorize a copy, or where you feel like it's almost they're offering you the pleasure of their presence, and you should be thankful. That's also something that I find incredibly not useful for anyone. I mean, not that I want deference when an actor comes into a room, but just be prepared, be on time, know your stuff, and show me what you can do. Because I always say a casting person gives the chance, opens the door for an actor to come into a room and do their show. And then after that, it doesn't, they have to let it go. And you may be right, you may be wrong, you may be the best actor they've seen all day, but you're not necessarily right for that particular part. But if you have the chance to have a spot during the day, come and be prepared. And please don't be late. That's also another pet peeve.
So what would your advice be to the actors, other than don't be late, be prepared, and actually show up?
I think auditioning is a very, very stressful thing you have to go through. It's like, for regular folks, it's like having to go for a job interview over and over and over again, and being judged for most of the time for stuff that you have no control over, whether it's your look, whether it's your age, whether it's your take on the character. You can be, as I said, the most talented person, but if you don't have the look they had in mind for that particular character, you won't necessarily get it. So I think you have to just enjoy the audition process as much as you can. Try to calm your nerves because it is very, very, very stressful. And sometimes the nerves take over and take the joy out of performing in front of other people. I think if you come into the room, you're confident in the proposition that you have to offer and that you enjoy. There's nothing more irresistible than an actor that enjoys acting. You know, if you there's a big difference, and I've done countless workshops, acting workshops, where I'm asked to be part of it and give my info, my input on you know, whether the auditioning or just, you know, a little conference, telling them, and that's always the advice I give them: have fun, enjoy yourself, because if you come into the room and there's a ton of pressure, and let's say, for the sake of argument, that you really need that job to pay your rent. Well, if you're not able to let that, you know, stay in the waiting room, and we can feel the weight of that, how important that audition is for you, let's say money-wise, then the joy is leaks out of the room, and all you see is the desperation. On the other end, if you're someone that is able to leave that in the waiting room, and all you see is the joy of acting and the confidence that you have, that you know you own that part and it's yours, then most of the time people can't resist that and they want to hire you. So I think it's just to come into a room and just feel extra confidence, even if the confidence is not always there. Just to find ways to make yourself be as open and vibrant and happy and joyful, especially if the character calls that. I mean, some parts are more, you know, somber and tortured, and you're playing a villain and all of this, but you also have to relish that. If you're coming into a room and you want to be the greatest villain, then go for it 100%. There's nothing, once again, there's nothing more irresistible than an actor owning a part, wanting to be the character. It's very few people, we very rarely see that into a room. And when we do, I mean, it's hard to resist.
Nice. Well, one more question about the actors. I would like to know, what do you think, if it's important for an actor to be signed with a top agency or not?
I think there are two ways to go about answering this question. I think, yes, depending on the project and depending on the casting person, I believe that being with a top agency makes you, gives you sometimes more chances to be seen. But I also, casting director, and that's the other way of answering this, I think a casting director should be open to seeing the best actor wherever they are repped. So you may have preferred to stay with a smaller agency or one agent that reps a very small roster, and that's your choice. I always say that finding an agent, it's like falling in love. It's basically a love story or a friendship story, or so you have to enjoy working with your agent, and the agent has to enjoy working with you for the relationship to be successful. Just get some. So if your choice is to stay with a smaller agency, but you are a very talented actor, I think a casting person should look you up or give you a chance to come in. and not just necessarily go with the top agencies in town, because it is a choice. I mean, I've known actors that have, for the entirety of their career, stayed with one agent, and it's a small agency, and they're quite comfortable, and it works for them. And others where I see where they switch agencies, sorry, and go from start with a smaller agency and then work their way up and end up at the bigger agencies. But that's a tough word for me to say. The thing that's very particular about a top agency is that they have oftentimes they have a lot of clients, and it is sometimes difficult, especially if you're newer in the business, to get the same attention from a top agent than your star. Let's say they rep a few big name actors that work quite a bit, and so your agent earns quite a bit of commission off of these actors. So of course they're going to service these actors first. I mean it's just common sense. So I find that sometimes if you're a smaller or a newer actor with not a lot of body of work yet, you may get a little bit neglected. But if you do stay with a smaller agent, especially when you start, I find that agents that have smaller rosters work harder because they do have to earn a good commission. They really have to work hard at it. So I think it's, especially if you start in the business, that may be a big advantage, is that you, and then after that, it's your choice. You do decide, you're always free to go and move to another agency if that working relationship does not work for you anymore. But it's a personal choice.
It sounds like they're kind of like your mentors, you know, like they're like the person who nurtures you, and the smaller agents, I believe, they're more like a caring parent who's supporting you.
Absolutely. But I mean, some actors prefer to keep it very business-like. Other mix the personal with the business. We have quite a few of, which is unlike anywhere else in Canada. Here in Montreal, we have actors group where they represent themselves. So they do get access to the casting director's breakdown, and then they submit themselves. And we have quite a few of those. And then you have actors that are not part of anything, and they just, because they're so talented, they get offers or get asking to come in. Quebec is a very specific market, and it's very different than the rest of Canada, not just because of the language, but because of the type of productions that we have access to. We have our own star system here in Quebec, which is it's very, very different than the rest of Canada.
What is it?
For me, I compare it to LA, to Hollywood. We have our own little Hollywood. I mean, we do have TV shows about, all the working actors. There's a ton of magazines, which are not necessarily the Entertainment Weekly, but it's more of a mix between like a People magazine and Good Housekeeping and stuff like that, where you have interviews about the actors that are stars of the shows. Also, if you are a working actor in Quebec, you do everything. You do TV. If you're lucky enough, you do features. You do voice work. You do theater as well. You do. There's a big dubbing market here for all the English productions being dubbed in French. So an actor could do a voice in the morning, rehearse for a play, or shoot in the afternoon a scene in a TV show, and do a play at night. And that's why Quebec actors are very well regarded in terms of talent-wise, because I do send quite a bit of actors on Toronto sets, and then I speak to directors afterwards, and they quite enjoy working with French-speaking actors because they've been to acting school and they are very well-rounded and they do everything.
Well, speaking of nerves, we
Yes.
spoke a lot about actors
Yes.
being nervous, but I'm sure casting directors can get as nervous during the pilot season and last minute calls and last minute breakdowns. How does a casting director unwind from all of
Wow.
that?
Wine? Wine helps? No, I'm joking. I
Is there
think
like a casting agent retreat?
I would hope so. I mean, it's always fun. We have an association in Quebec, and there is an association in Toronto, which is the CDC, the Casting Director Society of Canada. Here in Montreal, it's called the ADCQ, which is l'Association des Directeurs de Casting du Québec. So
Mhm.
we do have meetings. We do get together from time to time. We try to unwind just by joking about our different experiences. We all go through the same stress. We always have sometimes incredibly tight deadlines, and you just have to breathe. It's like actors. You, it is a very stressful business.
I feel
Um,
like it's super underestimated how much work casting directors and agents do. It's just insane.
It is insane. It is insane. It is insane. We work quite a bit. It's very enjoyable work, but it's also very stressful. I would say, especially commercial wise, because there's so much money involved in shooting a commercial that pressure goes down from the client to the ad agency people, to the director and all the production crew, down to the actor and the casting person, and all the way back to like, let's say we hire the actors after an audition, and then they go to Toronto and shoot on these huge sets with 60 people in front of them, and they have to give their all, and they only have 3 or 4 takes
Mhm.
and then we move on to the next setup. So the stress. It's a different stress. You've been hired, now you have to perform, and you have to
Right.
perform the way that they want you to perform, which is not necessarily the same way that you've auditioned, because it changes all the
Right.
time. So it's just I think everyone in our business has to be able to handle stress because it is a stressful business. But what we have also to keep in mind is that we're all people, and we have to remember that because sometimes we forget. Actors feel that they're just a number in a room, like they come in, they're just a body, they're not a real person. Casting people
Mhm.
sometimes feel like they are just people that they have to. They're just you know you're just bringing the cattle.
Right.
Agents, I think, feel like they're not responding fast enough to all the breakdowns. And then the agency people feel the same pressure from their clients. They're not delivering the winning concept that they thought. So, I mean, whichever way you're up on the ladder, which I mean, it's not
Mhm.
even a ladder. I think it's just more, horizon.
Spectre.
Yeah. So whichever way you are into the machine, I would say, you just have to be able to handle stress. And I think it's the same for the actors. You need to rest. You need to relax from time to time. You need to let go, and resource, and go on trips and travel, and just so you can come back rested and full of new ideas and different ways of seeing things. I think taking
Mhm.
breaks, which are hard to do most of the time, but I think it's very important to find your way to um, relax and disconnect from this crazy business.
Nice.
Crazy, but
Well,
I love my business. I love what I do.
it is an amazing industry, and to be able to navigate yourself through it, you really need some guidance. Have you personally had someone who you consider your mentor or a teacher?
Well, as I said previously, I think I've learned everything at Powerhouse. Thank you, Kim. Thanks, Michael. Uh, I've learned the basis of how a casting works. Um, After that, it's to refine because a casting director is only good as how well they know the actors. Um, if you're asked to find comedy actors, well, you've got to know who are the best comedy actors. I've quite a bit of projects I've worked recently where I needed to find people that are really good at improv. So that's another set skill that you have to figure out. You've got to go see improv shows. You got to but guidance now, I would say that I respect and admire my colleagues. I watch a lot of TV. Go to the movies quite a bit, and I always look at the credits at the end. Oh, who's done the casting? And you can often understand the way that they respond to actors by the people that they cast. We've often had this conversation, colleagues, where I think you would give the same project to 5 different casting directors and you would have 5 totally different castings. I always learn by watching other people's work, and especially when we talk and because every casting director has a different way of not necessarily auditioning, but how to speak to actors. I find
Right.
we speak
Because
to
you need a separate language to talk to the actors. Like
totally.
it's such I feel like so many directors just don't really know how to communicate what they have in their minds, their vision to the actors and the casting directors.
Yeah.
So sometimes it turns into an endless loop, kind of like a musical chair game when you try to deliver something and then that's not what they wanted because they could
Yeah.
not communicate it right.
Some directors are really, really great without actors. Some are more what I call more the visual people that like they have an idea in their minds, but they just don't know how to communicate to the actor what they want. And then when they see it, they feel it, they understand that, oh, this is what I wanted all this time and I could not communicate it.
Right.
But it's the same with actors. I mean, as casting people, we do have to figure out what kind of languages they talk. Some actors are more about emotion. Some actors, it's a very straightforward directions, faster, slower. And some you have to speak to them in colors. And some it's a very different vocabulary. And I think the what makes a great casting person is understanding right away how the actor responds to your directions and adapting it. Because if you're not able to adapt to what kind of language the actors understand, you won't get a great performance.
For sure. Well, those were all of my questions. So if you would like to add something else at the end, perhaps what are you currently working on or something that you're really excited about right now?
Well, I will be very, very excited that the feature film I worked on actually 2 years ago, that came out in Quebec last year, which is now in the cinemas, which is called Boost, an independent feature. The lead won the Best Actor prize at the Canadian Screen Awards. His
That's
name
amazing.
is Nabil Rajo, and I worked on this casting, so I'm very, very proud of the project, but also very, very happy for his performance. That his performance was actually the winning one in that because he worked really hard and he was really good in the movie. So go see the movie if it's still in the cinemas, and if not, rent it when it's out. It's a great movie.
Amazing. Thank you so much and congratulations to you. That's definitely you have contributed to that because if it wasn't for you, there would be no actor.
No, exactly.
Exactly.
No, it's no, but it's at the same time. It's like the cherry on top of the sundae. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
we don't. I mean, casting people never win awards. There are very few awards for casting. But I think if you work on a project and you're lucky enough to, if you're lucky enough, The phone should not be ringing. Oh. So if you're lucky enough to work on a project that has receives nominations, especially for acting, I think it's a cherry on top. It's such a great feeling to for the actors to get recognized for their work, but also that it validates a casting person. I was right. I thought this actor would do a great job in that part, and an award, or whether it's an award or just a nomination, is a proof that you were right. I do think casting people are not thanked enough or recognized enough. I've had many projects that I've worked on where that particular part allowed an actor to be seen and be hired for another job. And actors sometimes forget that, and especially agents. I've had agents where the actors got like big time contracts, tons of money, and you don't even get a thank you. It's sometimes a very you wish sometimes that people would be more thankful, but hey, that's the business.
That is the industry. Well,
yes.
To not leave it on the sour note, definitely, if whoever's watching this, go say thank you to your agent, to your casting director.
And when you get a part, thank you to the casting person. They'll remember you, that's for sure.
And I would like to thank you, the casting person, for staying with me today and answering all of my amazing questions. You were fantastic and beautiful.
Oh. Well, thank you
so much.